I challenge you guys to find the difference between these two right here. Wait. There isn't much. But we're at the end of 2020. How can this be? What's up guys, Akariss here, bringing you a brand new Fire Emblem Heroes video, as usual. Today's video, well, I don't know what to make of it, I'm gonna be real. Yeah. So we got this guy, and probably was one of the biggest baits of 2020, guys. I mean, I was totally expecting to have a preference weapon 180 statted unit ready to go in arena, but instead I got nothing. And on top of that, because the guy comes with the creator's sword and how the creator's sword is, not the dark one, you would have expected that the dark creator's sword probably would have been pretty good, or at least somewhat similar. It's nowhere near similar. So yeah, we're gonna jump into this guy. I'm gonna try to keep this video short and sweet, because honestly, this is more like the TLDR of this is I'm fairly disappointed by this unit in many ways. He's not the optimal arena investment, for example. I mean, you can, but we'll get into that. And like, especially with Enna just being released, like comparatively speaking, he's not gonna be the best investment unless you just want to save a couple of grails or wait for a rerun where he's cheaper. But realistically, there's a little bit of stuff to touch in, and I feel like this guy's like a glorified AR unit if you want to use a melee sword infantry, which has its own laundry list of problems. But okay, so the guy has a really high attack stat, really high defense, and a high res stat. Now that feels very similar to Ashnard, because I'm actually a user of Ashnard, so I feel that. But the thing with Ashnard is he has a really good weapon, like a superb weapon, and he's got flyer mobility, plus he can benefit from like ward and goad flyer stacking, which is a complete difference to what this guy can pretty much, like, I guess he can benefit from like the infantry exclusive skills, so of course I'm gonna recommend those stuff like null C disrupt and null follow up. Of course we'll look into it, but realistically this is like an Ashnard stat spread, but he's on the ground rather than flying. With that being said though, his weapon may look interesting at first impression, but you'll probably quickly realize it's not that great. It's okay, so like the first condition is like you get basically 6 attack and 6 defense pretty much all the time, but I would definitely compare this to like Itsuki's weapon, Mirage Falchion, where you're pretty much getting a bunch of stats as well, pretty consistently on both phases. This check on his weapon is global. It doesn't need like adjacent allies or allies within 2 spaces. It's pretty easy to meet, so at least that's going for him. And most your units will usually be full health if you use them in something like AR. That weapon may become a little more inconsistent for arena, where you'll definitely see a lot of your units see combat in one way or another. Now I'm going to talk about the second effect, and this is where a lot of controversy, in my opinion, is seen. So it may look like, wow, that's pretty good. You get like 45% damage reduction because your allies are probably going to be alive or like high health. Yes, but in AR, you got to realize the way AI works, because if you know how AI works, the fact that this is a 1 unit clause is a problem. The 1 unit clause is a huge problem, like the first phase, first thing hitting you, because AoE specials are not really considered within combat checks, like at all. The AI doesn't consider AoE damage in the slightest. It considers damage ratio based on in-combat damage. So basically, if a unit is running like an AoE special, they're most likely not going to attack first. In fact, they only attack first pretty much if they're guaranteed a win in combat. There's going to be many other units on the enemy roster on an AR defense team that are going to attack first over a unit with an AoE. And if you've played a couple of AR matches, you'll pretty much feel this out anyways. You either get blasted by an AoE and die, or the AoE unit tends to attack like last, and the in-combat damage can be very low if you've properly supported like a tank unit. So that weapon, just because it's like Effie, guys, it's like Effie, okay? Effie's like memed on because she's got that 1 enemy phase kind of check. Same idea here, like first combat, and that's all you get for AoE. I don't understand why this weapon was just reduce AoE all the time, because Nagi exists, I'm not saying Nagi's like amazing, but like Nagi's weapon has it already, so it's like, why does this need to be worse than that? I don't know. Whatever. It feels like a freebie where they're just like trying to give the bare minimum to players, which is a little bit unfortunate the way I see it. So what I'm going to show you guys now is a couple ways to definitely use him. He's not the worst unit we've ever gotten. I mean, this isn't like Eremia status, for example, or even Riss, like Summer Riss. Like, those are pretty bad. But yeah, he's workable. I mean, if you like him, he's workable, but he's not necessarily like the best investment is what I would say. So moving into some builds, let's go take a look. First up, I will definitely recommend a pretty standard distant counter, null follow-up, speed build. Yes, give him the speed boon off of fruits and use him as a speedy tank in AR offense. And in Astra, this should be easier, but I do recommend you run it with Plumeria. Plumeria is a great asset for otherwise melee tanks in Astra where this is a bit of suffering. Keep in mind though, if you run something like this, Altina is also fairly similar. Like, there's a little bit of role overlap where Altina is like a red, tanky, slow, you know, infantry, and sorry, red slow sword. So like, it feels awkward that you would make this investment if you'd already been using Altina as a carry. He has his like role to play with null follow-up and possibly null see disrupt. But considering how inconsistent the weapon might be in combat, I honestly would suggest possibly switching it out for a speed refined carrot cudgel. Give you some more speed, run the speed res solo. Definitely Plumeria sabotage speed works well with him, and yeah, it's probably gonna work better than his preference weapon. Serious. Like, the extra attack and defense doesn't really play into the common threats you'll see in Astra. It's like mostly magical damage, so extra HP is needed. It bumps you over 70 HP. You're gonna want more speed and probably more res from like the speed res solo. So it's kind of weird, guys. Kind of weird. Carrot Cudgel actually might be better. Seriously, it might actually be better. So I'm gonna say that finally there is a different way to play it with his weapon, which is probably aiming to do like one-shots. If you can successfully use the attack portion or attack him like through Plumeria's Plower of Plenty, giving him extra attack, or if you have someone near him 2 spaces also giving drive attack, maybe even running him with joint drive attack, will definitely make it so he hits sky high attack numbers like 70, easily into the 80s, 90s kind of attack where he's going to one-shot most things. Now, if you want to play him like that, I think there might be some merit to it that makes him different from a lot of other sword carries. Kind of. Like, it's awkward. It really is awkward, and I'm not going to really recommend him because of that. There's some inconsistencies to be had, and you really don't want this out of an AR carry. So finally, probably my biggest disappointment is the fact that he doesn't score 180. He doesn't score 180. He scores 179, no super boon, which means he's a questionable arena investment, especially with Enna just recently being released that does reach 180 with a speed super boon. And on top of that, because she hits res without needing sorcery blade on someone like Chrom and can afford to run like a heavy blade seal or lightning breath with an A skill that provides her a lot more attack, she actually has better matchups against water legendaries than Nemesis does. Realistically, she can actually win against Chrom, whereas Nemesis will struggle without Sorcery Blade and will have pretty much an inconsistent special because he doesn't really have special acceleration. I mean, you could do it with like Infantry Breath, I guess, but you need a unit who has like a preference weapon so that they still score optimally. So this guy is not the ideal arena carry or like arena scoring bot, and AR as well. He's really inconsistent because of his weapon being the way it is. Honestly, if it was just all the time AoE damage reduction, he would have been so much better. So much better. But the fact that that clause exists makes him such a gimmick. You literally run into any panic weapon, you run into Veronica, and those units have priority afflictor status. They will attack before AoE units if everyone's like a loss in a combat, and they will completely remove the effect of his weapon. Or if like a dancer you know, like everyone is a loss, then usually the AI will save their AoE unit for like last to attack or near last, and that makes this weapon really gimmicky, like not as good as it could have been. Now with Ileana recently being demoted into the 170 stat line, she's actually pretty nice as like a sorcery blade enabler, so I just wanted to feature her here as a good ally for physical units like Nemesis. Definitely, if you're already using, let's say, Itsuki, like Itsuki combined with Ileana is great. I use a Versa to enable something like Distant Counter Summer Xander personally, and with Sorcery Blade, he has such amazing matchups against low-res units like Alm or Legendary Crom, or maybe even units who don't really have higher res stat as opposed to defense. Like, it's nice. Sorcery Blade is good and definitely a staple in my opinion for Arena. With that being said though, that's all I'm really gonna say about Nemesis. This guy could have been so much more. Could have been so much more, guys. So if you like him, or maybe just like how he looks, I don't blame you for that, then use him. He's usable, but it feels like there's a missed opportunity here, and maybe it's too early to ask for it, I guess. With that being said, let me know what you think in the comments below. Hit up the Discord or Twitch if you haven't for further discussions. Give the video a thumbs up. I will see you guys in the next one. Sub to the channel as always. Much love. Peace.